just to give a brief introduction about about the group leaders, we have Debashish, who is the Salesforce technical architect from Dubai. We have Chinmay, who is Salesforce technical lead from Bhubaneswar, and myself, I am a Salesforce developer from Gurgaon location. Uh, Here are our Twitter handles. You can reach out to us if you want to present or if you want to have some conversation regarding Trailblazer community. Please reach out to us on Twitter. In case you wish to present, you also can reach out to any one of us, and we'll see how we can fit you into a schedule. So yeah, please reach out for events if you are planning to give any session on any technical related topics or non-technical event. Please reach out to us. Okay. So we have Sombir today. He's a senior consultant at PXC Technology, more than experience, passionate architect. He's an active community speaker. You'll find him in any if you see any trailblazing community events happening nearby, you will for sure find him in those events. Here is his Twitter handle. So in case you have any questions about this session or anything else, please feel free to reach out to him. We wanted to thank today Sudarshan, who's been helping us with all the posters for our Bhubaneswar developer group events. Thank you, Sudarshan, for your selfless service that you are doing for us and for other groups as well. So we just wanted to make sure that you are being well recognized. So thank you a lot. We have a quick agenda, so we'll have a session and which will be followed by Q&A. So this is the agenda for today. Now, and you can start the session. Meanwhile, I'll start the recording.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rahul, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, based on the location you are joining from. And the Twitter handle for me you already have in the slides, but I usually more active on LinkedIn. So in the chat, if you see, I have posted my LinkedIn URL also. So that's the best source to connect with me for quick response. So if you have any doubts after this session, anything if the same steps you are following and trying at your org and the connection or the integration is not working, please never hesitate to ping me on this LinkedIn URL. Okay. So let's start the session. And
one thing before you start. So you have and for our
your voice is low.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, rather than putting on the general group, let's start putting those on Q&A tab. I have enabled Q&A for everyone so that we can take the question directly from there.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we'll try to stop in between. So at that time we can check on those questions, or maybe because the session will not be much longer, so maybe we can take call at the end also, whatever suits to the audience. Okay. Okay. And the good news is I don't have any slide, everything on the live demo. Okay. So before we start the integration between Salesforce and SharePoint using the file connector. So let us have a brief understanding for 2 minutes. What are the systems and why should we go for this integration? So whenever, as we all know, most of the I guess are working already on Salesforce. If say there is someone new, this is Salesforce is known as the best CRM for its multi-cloud options. We have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and even other clouds for almost all of the industries. But if you come to the file storage perspective, that's not right tool. So for that, there are many document management tools. One of them is Microsoft SharePoint. So to use the best of these two systems, what we do is all the sales for CRM things we keep on Salesforce side, and if there is a big file management systems needed, or document management system needed for any project, like they are having a lots of file related works. So on those cases, it is always recommended to go to any such data, document management system tools. So in this case, we'll be considering Microsoft SharePoint as a document management system tool for us, and Salesforce, as you know, as a CRM. So we will connect them, and at the end, what we expect is that we should be able to access our SharePoint files from within the Salesforce, and there should be no need to store them. So by one, for the storage saving perspective, and second, you don't need to go outside Salesforce, so all your files should be accessible within Salesforce. Okay, so since we will be working on the Microsoft side, so for that, first thing is that we should have a Microsoft account. So if you don't have, we will start creating a new account, and there is no need to remember all the points all I'm explaining, because at the end, I have, for everyone's help, I have created one blog also for the same thing which we are discussing today. So all the steps and with every pointer, they are mentioned there also. I'll share after the end of this session, so that if you, even if you miss anything, so you can refer to those points one by one, and you can go through. It will be, you will be successfully connecting the two systems. Okay, so for that, first of all, you should sign up for the Microsoft Microsoft account. So that is like very normal sign up for Microsoft account. Simply go here and create one Microsoft account from like here. So
Sombir, are you sharing the screen?
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Good that we have not crossed much of the session. Thank you. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. So let me repeat. First, we should have a Microsoft 360 account or 365 account. And before that, this is for your personal demos or personal, uh, uh, like in your DevOps, which you will be testing and creating this. But in your practical, you should get all these details from your project. Okay, so if you don't have any Microsoft existing account, just create a new account from here with the required details. Like usually we create our Gmail account and other accounts. So same way, just enter any details and you are ready with your Microsoft account. So for our the session perspective, I have created one demo account. So this is demo.salesforce, something like that. So once your demo account is ready, you come here on this side, and this is developers.microsoft.com and dev program. So this will create like your free trial for 90 days uh, account for Microsoft Office 365, and this will be used uh, session. Okay, so using the same Outlook email which we created at the beginning, so we will join this Microsoft Office 365 developer program, and then we will be using throughout our session these details. Okay, so this is the demo account which I already have. Okay, so you can once you try in your org, you have to try your own. Okay, so this is very simple. Like usually, yeah, company, you can provide any like, let us say Salesforce and SharePoint demo English. Just accept the terms. This I'm explaining because this is something new. Everyone might not be aware. Okay, and what is the purpose of this developer account? Choose whichever suits you. Last one seems the simplest choice. Okay, so based on your, if you work on actual projects, you might need to select the different choice. Okay, and what is the areas of development you will be working on? For now, we are just selecting SharePoint. If you need to if you are working on this for different projects, you might select the different choices as applicable. Okay. Now this is the sandbox which is getting created the same way we have our developer sandboxes. So there are two choices. If you are very well versed about how the cloud accounts are created, you can go and configure your custom sandbox, custom settings. Otherwise, by default, create a instant sandbox. Okay, and this is the data center. Uh, let's select Asia, and remember this username will be used uh, in your next connection, later connections. So once you create it, remember you note it also. So demo dot let's say something Salesforce SP at, this is the username. Okay, and any as a big password. Okay, so it has a very good requirements for password. I have entered is very long, so let me note it down somewhere. Okay, so maybe till now, if you have any doubts, tell me.
I think there's no question in the QA part. We can go ahead. If some questions comes up, we'll take it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I was noting that down so I
Yeah,
get to
yes,
ask.
take it.
Okay. So, and let me note this also because we'll be needing those. So this is your so let's continue. So you might need to provide your phone number because during maybe it is coming because I have already used it with my other accounts. Let me try a second phone. Okay. I'm not getting OTP. Okay, I guess there is some issue. Again, try my phone. My personal phone is blocking because I have used it for 2 times already, maybe because of that. So what we do is, let's try to use the existing account in that case. Okay, so that is that was the last step with your phone number. Okay, so if you are uh, like in this scenario, if we are facing issues, so maybe we will use our existing developer account, but that was the last step that was needed from this perspective. So these are all the steps you have to create. And first you need to create your Microsoft account, like normal Microsoft, and then a Office 365 developer account. So it will give you 90 uh, days of trial, and after that it will expire. So you want to do some POC or testing from that side, you can do it. Okay, so this is the first thing before starting SharePoint and Salesforce integration, you have to do. Okay, so yeah, I have like these are the points which we discussed. You create your account, and yes, you can, once your account is ready, we'll be checking our full profile. So this is the profile path. So we can change our login from here. Let me log out from here, and let me log in from the existing account. Okay, this profile is needed in the later steps, so that's why we'll be going through this. And it has few important things which you will need in the next steps. Okay, because you need to understand. So I created this around 1 month back while I was understanding this demo. Okay, so once your developer account is ready, you will see this page at the end, and this is the complete URL. So you go to Microsoft developer.microsoft.com and Microsoft 365 profile. So there are mainly two important things here. First thing is this domain. So like in Salesforce, we have my domain. Similarly, in Microsoft Office 365, you will get your specific domain. So this is common for, might be common for everyone, but this is unique. So for my account, this is the uh, important parameter, 6K and 6Y3. Okay, and second is the administrator profile. So sometimes we need to log in with these details also, which we created, which I noted the username and password at the beginning, right? So these two are the important things. So once you are working or trying at your own side, so like you just take a note of this URL and this administrator username and password in some notepad file. Need to log in it during the next steps. Okay, so till now I hope we are clear. There was OTP not coming, so just we are just using some existing account which I have already created, but all the steps which we have already covered, only the OTP was not coming, so that is okay. Okay, so till now are we good?
Yes, yes, Sombir.
Okay, so once you are ready with your profile, like in Salesforce, we have different objects. We create the records. Okay, but in Microsoft, we have sites. This is the Office 365, and in Microsoft SharePoint, we have different sites. Sites are, you can say, like on in your developer orgs, you have your own URLs, right? So same way, uh, you will get, this is the domain name. So let's say this dot omni microsoft.com and slash, let's say ABC. So ABC is your site name. Okay, so if you have to create your own site, you just remember every step which will be covering from Microsoft perspective or SharePoint perspective, this URL is the base URL. Okay, so at least the domain name. So now you have to create your own site. Okay, so let me just copy because it's very tough to remember all these URLs. These all URLs and all the steps I have already mentioned in the blog, so nothing to worry. Okay, so this is the path where you will be creating a new site. So now we are coming to this page. So you have to log in with your administrator login credentials. Okay, so this is my existing account. So I just log in here. And because this will also require OTP, let's see if it works this time. Yeah, I got it. For your developer profile, adding phone number is mandatory, even if you are trying this is a trial account. Okay. I guess it is asking for two-factor authentication. No, it will come. Okay. I already have this new site created. In case you don't have, you go to this page and you have a create site button here. Okay, so we can create as many sites as needed. So you click on this button, create site. So you have team site or communication site. Let's say team site. Give it any name. Let's say Salesforce SP demo. Okay, just check its availability. And this is the site URL which you will get at the end, which is important to note. So we'll just note here. These are important because these steps are needed in the later steps when we'll connect Salesforce and SharePoint. Okay, let's, for the time being, let's keep it public. By default, you are already a member, but if you are creating in a project, you can add your other team members and just finish it. Okay, and just go to Documents tab and try to create a folder, because the same folder we have to access from Salesforce. And let's drag and drop one test file from my laptop. Okay, let's try adding any sample file. So once it is being uploaded, so this is like the step-by-step guide how to before starting the integration, how to prepare Microsoft SharePoint uh, setup and accounts, admin accounts, and creating your new site, creating your own org. So this is your domain, this is your site name. Okay, so if you see we have many multiple sites available here. So if you go to the home, this is your complete site URL. So you go to any sites, there were two existing sites already there. So this is the site which will be integrating for the demo. Those two sites I have already set up, so it's fine. We'll create a new one for the demo. So with this, we are uh, almost done from the SharePoint site. Okay, so now we'll go to there is a few steps pending which we'll be covering in the coming steps. So for the now, just as a setup perspective, like preparing your the first step where we are preparing your Microsoft SharePoint account. So from that side we are okay, so our site is ready, we have our site URL with us. And if you see the site URL, this is sites as a generic, but this is the site name which we'll be using in the coming steps. Okay, so till now, if you have any doubts, let me know. Otherwise, let me go to SharePoint, Salesforce site now.
So many people are asking about the URLs which you are using.
Don't worry on URLs. In the beginning, I told you
Yeah,
I have created one blog for this complete steps.
yeah,
Okay, so all the steps are mentioned.
yeah,
This will be different for everyone
yeah,
because this is the domain name. Like we have
yeah,
Salesforce domains. This one and the site URLs. These URLs will be different. But in my blog, I have given both the like formula URL and sample URLs. So you have to change them as per your demo.
yeah. So
Okay.
what
So
we'll do, Sombir, will once the recording is available, right? We'll send out an email with recording and the blog link to the everyone's
yes,
email.
yes.
That would be and
In the chat also we can send, and
yes,
in the mail you will sending to everyone at the
correct,
after this session. In that
correct,
also we can mention that URL.
sure.
Okay, so
Okay.
there is in the beginning already I told everyone there is no need to remember all these URLs. I also don't remember, that's fine. So because these are mentioned in the documentation, so that and they vary as per your different organizations also. So it's fine, it's not needed to remember these URLs. You just focus on the steps what we have to do, and even if you miss anything, that's fine. In the first you don't remember everything. uh, you will just you go through all the steps one by one from the blog, I'll say, and then you will be perfectly working. Okay, so nothing to worry. And even if nothing, there is some doubts, still it does not work, you can ping me anytime. Okay, so everyone's benefit, I have created a new trailhead org here, this one. So uh, and just to set your expectations what you see, so if you go to files you do not see any external connections. And but this is the existing another org, developer org, trailhead org, where you can see the SharePoint connection is there, and we can access those files. So if you remember, here we created documents. For documents is out of the box from SharePoint. So you created your this folder SharePoint demo, and inside that we added one file. Okay, so the same way you will be able to. So like if you see in this already existing session, we are having this folder, multiple folders, and we have added so many files. Okay, so same way at the once we connect our fresh trailhead playground, this org, so you will be having the same session here also. Okay, so that is the expectation, so that once both systems are connected, we can see the SharePoint connection within Salesforce. Okay, okay. So the first thing, uh, you create your for your learning perspective, just create one fresh trailhead playground. And in Salesforce, the first thing you have to come is make sure your files connect is enabled. So in previous versions or previous orgs, the by default you have to enable it, but nowadays it is already enabled. So let's say if it is not enabled, you just enable this from here, enable files connect. So files connect, with files connect you can connect Salesforce with most of the systems, maybe Google, maybe Microsoft. Like if I say Google, it is Gmail, Google Drive, everything. If I say Microsoft, you have LinkedIn, you have like we today we are considering SharePoint, and you can also connect with Twitter and other things. Okay, so once you will be setting up, so you will see which all connections are possible. Okay, this is the second option. This is important. So there are two things. So because files are within SharePoint, and you want to access those from Salesforce. Now there are two choices. Do you want to just keep a reference or a copy of that file? So if you are keeping the reference, so and attach those files within Salesforce to any account, any opportunity, any case, you will just have the URL. Okay, so and that is the most preferred way if you want to allow access to those files to only those people who have access to both SharePoint and Salesforce. Okay, so if that is your organization choice, you keep reference. But let's say there is a choice in your organization or a requirement that you need a copy of that. So let's say I created one account. On account I went through SharePoint, and let's say from here I selected this file and added to my account. Now if that account is being used by, let's say, some other team members who do not have access to SharePoint but only have access to Salesforce, so in such scenarios you have to select the choice as copy. Okay, so maybe let's say you have a chatter group which is maybe external also, where other party vendors are also accessing those chatter groups, and but you don't want to give them your SharePoint access, so that they can just have a preview also. So those all features are available with copy only. Okay, so these are the just flags if you want to use the external, because uh, this is just the setup. Once we'll be connecting to external source, which is SharePoint, we'll be creating external data source and external objects, right? So because if you want to have anything accessing from outside, so for that we go for external objects and external data sources. So that is just if you want to use their search layouts, and this is one more flag. So this is by default. If you will see all these options. These first two are the main things. If you want to search those files, then you can use this same layout. You can see the help from here. Okay, so this is the first step, that you should have your files connect setup enabled. So if this is not enabled, you will not be able to create any auth providers with any of the Microsoft, Google, or any external connections. Okay, and since we are enabling the new features, let's prepare a new permission set, so that instead of only the required people have access to all these integrations or connections which we are implementing. So let's create a new permission set. Just give it a name. Let's say files connect permission set. Give it any name. There is no license needed. And there is one system permission, special system permission, just for this files connect. So that's name is files connect cloud. So you have to enable this. So any user who will be like using the SharePoint and Salesforce integration maybe accessing those files within Salesforce. Every user, if you want these functionalities to be available, they should have this system permission assigned to. Okay, so just save this, and for benefit, we are just creating a fresh permission set so that we can assign to only the required list of users, just to make sure, yeah, we have enabled it. Now let me assign it to my user using manage assignments. So these are the very like basic steps for assigning any new permission set to any user. So you can assign as per your requirement in your project. It is recommended you assign to only the 2 or 3 people, or maybe yourself in the beginning, and once you see, yeah, something is working, then you can start assigning your other team members. Okay, so that's the set, that's new permission set is created, and we are good to go. Now, because some external system wants to connect with us, so we need a auth provider. Okay. So let's create a auth provider. So if you go here, yeah, you see so many options. So most of the things are coming because we have files connect enabled. So right, so we are connecting with the Microsoft, so we select with the Microsoft Access control point. Let's give it some name, a meaningful name. Let's say Salesforce SharePoint Connect. Okay, that's the display name. That's and consumer key and consumer secret. We will be copying from SharePoint. So for now, we are just putting it as some sample files, sample values. Okay, and for this authorization point and token endpoint URL, there is some formatting, or there is some specific values you have to change as per your org. So I have noted them. So if you see here, so the authorization endpoint, which we see here, which will be these things, authorization endpoint and token endpoint, these will be used from your external system, which is your SharePoint. Okay, so this is the sample value. You can, this is the, you can say the formula where you have to just change your org specific or your instance specific from Microsoft Office 365 account, right? So if you remember, we go here, and this is your domain name from the Microsoft Office 365. So you just copy here. Let me just help you how to change this value. Okay, so this is your company name, right? So company name is nothing but your org. So change here. Then this is your site path. What is full site path? If you go here, go here and see. So go to your home. There can be multiple sites. So just see whichever site you want to refer. So this is the, if you see earlier, I was having a different site. So now I'm using this. Okay, so this is your site path. Site path is this. This is your base URL, your domain.sharepoint.com, then slash sites. Which site? Salesforce demo. And at the end, just append this. And this one. Okay, so is it fine? If any questions, just put in the chat, and Rahul, let me know if there is any questions coming. Okay, just simple, just change your domain here, and put your site, full site, sites, and then site name. Earlier, if you see in the sample value, I was having another site from the same domain, but now I have created a new site, so I'll be using new site. Okay, and this is common. This is common from the SharePoint documentation perspective. Okay, just copy this, put in the. Now go to the token endpoint. Same way, token endpoint, just copy your value. And if you see this HTTPS account access control, this all remains same as is for everyone. So even if you are trying in your org, these values remain same. So if you see in these big braces, I have put your company name. So replace company name with your domain name. Then Microsoft. So if you see, there is no site mentioned here, so there is no need to add this SharePoint, this site name and all. So just change everywhere. All these, there are 3 places which you have to change your specific company name, and you are done. Okay. So it just, if you see at if I select my company name, there are only 3 places where I have been changing my company or domain. So rest remains same for everyone, even if you are working on your local project or your uh, like live project. Okay, and save it. So remember that these 2 points we have just put dummy values. So we'll come back once we have to set one more thing inside SharePoint, and those things will be changing here later. Okay, so this is done. There is no need to change anything for now, and just save it. And as you know, if we are connecting auth providers in Salesforce, in the external systems, they need callback URL, right? So you have to note this callback URL down, so that this is your base URL, base Salesforce Classic URL, and these services auth callback, and this, if you see the last point, this is the name of your auth provider. Okay, this is the name of your auth provider. Okay, and let's say if you don't know how to get it, you can just go to developer console and just type just log the base URL in system.debug. But there is no need, because once you will save your auth providers, it writes it down in the callback URL. Okay, let me take a note of this callback URL in the top only, because here I'm maintaining. This is the site callback Salesforce URL. So our auth provider is ready, except that consumer key and consumer secret, which we have to get from SharePoint, because we'll be creating one application there now, and from there we'll be getting the full values of the new application which we'll be creating. We have to get the consumer key and consumer. Okay, so as you see, let me get again the, yeah, this is your base. Oh, I have already noted this. Okay. So now I have to create a new application. So there is same way, like all the things which we are going one by one, the base URL remains same, and at the end you have to append something. Okay, so now we have to create one new application. So this is the like you can say, at the end you have to append. So if you see my sample values, so your company name sharepoint.com, site collection URL, so this is your complete SharePoint path. So this was my earlier sample value. but this is my new account, right? So at the end, we just have to append this value. Okay. So let's say this is my full value. Now we'll go to again my Microsoft account. Okay. And now we'll be creating a new app so that we get the client ID, client secret, and name of the app within Microsoft SharePoint. So SharePoint gives the capability to generate these new values. Okay. In the title, let's say give any useful name. Uh, then let's say SharePoint Online Connect, online app. Okay. And this is the title. This is the API name. Oh, sorry, this is app domain. So app domain is the Salesforce value we'll be putting here soon. And this is the redirect URL. So if you go to Salesforce, this is the callback URL. So that you have to, the value has to be get from new auth provider which we created. Okay. And app domain is the basic domain URL value from Salesforce. So until my.salesforce.com without any uh, HTTP or something. So this is the value, this one. Okay, let me zoom it. From the callback URL, see this resilient caller. So this is your domain, right? Till Microsoft, add.my.salesforce.com. So this value you have to copy here, and this is the domain URL of Salesforce. And this redirect URL is the complete callback URL from your new connection or new auth provider which you created in the previous step. Okay. So, and this is something confusing. If maybe we can stop for a minute if someone has any doubts. Otherwise, we'll just create this. Just let me know if there is any doubt here. Or are we fine? Should we ask in at the end of session?
If you want to take the questions now, you can take also. There are some questions posted in the Q&A tab.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So, how Salesforce File Access Authentication works together within SharePoint?
Say again.
Uh, how Salesforce File Authentication works together within SharePoint? Asking a SharePoint has its own file. Okay, SharePoint having the own file access management control. And how Salesforce authenticates these together with
Okay,
SharePoint?
so there are like multiple ways how we can connect Salesforce with SharePoint, right? So you can go with your programming and custom setup as well. That is all. That is also a choice. You have multiple third-party systems like Zapier.
Hmm.
Uh, so from there also, that will just take 2 minutes. This is at least a little lengthy process, but for those you need to get the accounts and licenses for those third-party apps also. You just select SharePoint, give your credentials. You just select your Salesforce, give your credentials, and both are connected. So that is very fast. So that depends on your org and what type of integration you are expecting in your system. This Salesforce file connect feature is something which is out of the box and provided by Salesforce with partnership with Microsoft, Google, and some other companies, right? So before the file connect, there was already either a choice to go with the third parties, or you have to create your like REST APIs or through those procedures. So if you want the easy access, you want to access any files within Salesforce using some point and click solutions, then this is the thing which we are discussing in this session.
Okay, perfect. And another question from Vaibhav says there is a use case
Mhm.
applicant attaching a PDF from portal, which creates an opportunity with the same PDF in Salesforce. So every opportunity will have its own PDF. How can we save this PDF in SharePoint instead on Salesforce file and attachment?
That is the different connection, right? Here
Yes.
what we are connecting is we are accessing Salesforce. Within Salesforce we are accessing SharePoint files, right? So
Correct.
there are two things. One thing, some external systems files we are connecting to Salesforce and we are accessing here. There is one second thing is that is like inbound thing, right? So, and if there is one thing which Salesforce files you want to connect with other systems, so that will be external connections. So that will be some different thing, different way to integrate. So
Perfect.
not
Perfect.
with this one.
Yeah. So other questions we can take in the end. We can proceed.
Yeah.
If the time, yeah.
So just to repeat here, uh, client ID, client secret is always dynamic. You just click on this generate button, give it any sample name for this app which we are creating. App domain is the very basic URL of Salesforce, including your domain without HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, and redirect URL is the redirect URI is the value which we have copied or which we have to copy from this value. Callback URL from the Auth Provider which you created earlier. Okay, so once you all steps are there, just create a, and it will create a new app, will give you client ID, client secret, and all these things. Remember to copy these in some text file before you click OK. So as soon as this is ready, just go in your text file and sorry, and not these. So these will be different for everyone. So for like the client, and because we can generate any number of times, every time you can create. As soon as you save it for that application, this becomes final. Okay, so there are two steps for this application creation. The one step was first of all creating the application, and second step is to provide necessary permissions to this application. Okay, so this step in this step we have just created a new app with the details which we just copied. Okay, so the second step is uh, to provide let me check the URL. So this is creating app, and now we have to configuring that app using some permissions. Okay, so same way you have this remains same for every the first creating app also the base thing, and at the end you have to append this URL. So earlier if you see it was app registration new.aspx. It is app, you can say, environment setup or application setup. Okay, so just this last thing is changing. So our file path is different, so let me copy from there. So this is the path which will be pasting here, and at the end will be appending this one. Okay, so just copy this URL again, go to browser, and this registration is done. Now we'll configure or the give access to that app, and how to get that app using the app ID. What is app ID? App ID is the client ID. So the app which you created in the previous step, you copy the client ID from here and you can search, look up. So just paste it. So all the apps which you have created till now in your domain, in your org, you can just paste it here, and you get all these details. Only thing which we have to add here is provide necessary permissions. Like this is SharePoint app, who else can access? Okay, and what can access? So like if you see I have 2 or 3 sites in my uh, in my this domain or Microsoft domain. This is the one, but if you see, I was having one more site also. So there is one documentation uh, help and for better understanding. So if you see, we just copied this uh, like prefix or not prefix, this is suffix. Okay, and these are the 5 values. Now if you see at this step, we have to pass these things are copying from the app which we created by just passing the client ID. Now you have to give the permissions. Now this is the sample for SharePoint Online. We are working now on Salesforce. Like this demo is for Salesforce, SharePoint Online. Okay, so this is the sample XML file to provide access. Okay, so there are two things you have to change as per your org. One is scope and one is right, which type of access right you want to give. For the scope, we have three things. We can pass 3 values in the scope. One is web for a single site, only the site, not the subfolders. This is site collection, so that the person who is having access to this app has access to this site collection, including all the subfolders. And if you pass tnent, they have access to all site connections. Okay, so this is the these 3 possible values are to be passed for the scope identifier. Okay, just remove this one and paste any of these URLs in this place. Second is right equal to placeholder. So these are the 4 possible rights. You want to give read, write, manage, or full control. Okay, so we have some sample values with us. So we just copy. You try all possible different combinations and see how it behaves. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, uh, the values which I have given in my blog, like if you copy and paste in Notepad, take care of this apostrophe. It's in double quotes. Okay, so it might be behaving differently. So always try to remember, delete this and type manually, right? So if you see this one and this one, this looks little different. But if you copy from Word file, PDF file, or some website, you might get this content or this character. So as a best practice, I suggest just remove this manually and replace it uh, by typing from the keyboard. Okay, just keep this in mind. So I just copied this and let's paste in the grant permission file. Okay, so we are giving access to all site connections and full control for now, and just create. Okay, so for the first time it will ask you to trust, like as soon, like even if we log in our Salesforce org for the first time, it asks for some OTP to log in, and so that it saves for future references. Okay, now we have created Microsoft 365 account. We have our domain name. We created a site first. Okay, and then we created a new app in SharePoint, and now we configured the accesses for that application. Okay, and remember, we created this app with this client ID and client secret. Now as you remember, there is one step which we have to come back here again and make sure our latest client ID and client secret from the app which we have just created are pasted there. Because in the beginning, if you remember, we just pasted some typed random values. Okay, make sure there is no space at the end or beginning. Same way for the client secret. These values will differ for all the apps. So, and the sample values which I have given in the blog, they will be the sample values while I was writing those. So always copy paste from the app which you create in some notepad and replace this Auth Provider with the values from your org, not from the sample values given here or maybe from the page you are referring. Okay, and just save it. Okay, so till now are we good? If there is any questions we can discuss. So maybe high level we have set up Salesforce also, we have set up SharePoint also, somewhat like we can say 50-60% we have achieved till now. So if there is any doubts just or any questions, please let me know, otherwise we'll go in for the next.
We can proceed. The few questions are there. We can take in the end. That's
Okay, okay. So just to revise, first we created our SharePoint Microsoft account. Then that new org we created one SharePoint site. After that we created a new app, and the end we provided access to that app. And in Salesforce, what we have done till now is we first of all we made sure File Connect is enabled, and there are two options: reference or copy. For now, we have reference. If you want to keep a copy of that file, you can select copy also. That all depends on your business requirement. Then you created a Auth Provider. In the beginning, there are two things important here. These two URLs, which sample values I have already provided. Just change the this SharePoint URL and this domain name in these two values. Sample values are already with you in the page, blog, and just change it and save. And later you copy these values once your site is ready, client ID and client secret, and paste it here in the consumer key and consumer secret. From Salesforce side, our setup is ready. Yeah, we created one more new fresh permission set to provide that files connect system permission. Okay. Now, in order to access external data from Salesforce, you need a external data source. And before creating a new external data source, the prerequisite is that you have your Auth Provider and those apps, all those setups ready already. Okay. So we'll go to the external data sources in Salesforce, and we'll create a new external data source. Any name of your choice you can give. Let's say SharePoint files connect. That's the API name that's automatically created. And in the type, there are, if you see from the Microsoft, there are two choices. We are doing for SharePoint Online, so you just select this one, right? So this is the site URL, which is the site SharePoint site URL. So this is the base, right? So this is Salesforce demo. So if you have other site or whichever site you want to configure, you just copy paste here, and that's the site URL of SharePoint. Not from anything from Salesforce, but this is the from the SharePoint. So like, let's say the settings might change whichever options you are selecting, but for the SharePoint Online, we have to pass the site URL of your SharePoint site. Okay. And in the Auth Providers, we keep these default per user host 2, and in the Auth Provider you have to select the recently created Auth Provider. Okay, so that's simple. In here you have to do nothing, just copy paste the site URL and select the Auth Provider which you created in the previous step. Make sure you have this checkbox ticked, so that as soon as we save this file, it tries to connect with the external system, right? So that it gets the data, and just save it. Okay, so it is trying to connect. Okay, I have to pass my Authentications. Can I stop share for a minute? Okay, let me.
Sure.
Yeah. So here you have to log in. I'm just getting the username and password. Let's see. In parallel, I'm logging into my account. Okay. Sorry, I stopped sharing because that file has my other accounts notes as well. Meanwhile, maybe anyone has doubts, we can discuss those. Is there any doubt? I can take those during the time I'm doing this.
There is a question from Subhajit. If we have some file in the files in Salesforce, will it be visible on SharePoint folder?
No, 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 no. That's a reverse thing, right?
Yeah. And, and there is one more question like how you created the callback URL. That's I think you have already shown
That
it.
I don't create. That I don't
Yeah.
create. Once you will create auth providers in Salesforce, so based on your base URL of your org, right, and the name you pass in your auth provider, let's say ABC. So your complete URL slash some suffixes, and at the end it saves your uh, new auth provider name, API name. So that gets generated automatically.
And there is one more question from Hansi. If I set permission set to couple of user in Salesforce, all they will be see same content or different as per the permission in SharePoint.
In the if you see the app which we created in external system, so that app we are providing access, and that app URL, uh, those things which we are passing in your auth provider as client ID and client secret, right? So for this one app setup, which is having common uh, client ID and client secret, and those things which we are storing into our org, right? So
Yeah.
those things are to be based on the app access. We passed some XML file, right?
Yes.
With access and which type of, like, do you want to allow access to all sites? Do you want to allow access to only one site, or some specific site and not subfolders? So there were two parameters. So depending on which parameter you are passing, it will have same access uh, to the users in Salesforce.
Okay, perfect. I think we have this much questions as of now.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not getting multiple again. Yeah. Okay. In my other browser, it worked. Okay. Let me share again. Sorry for this.
No
Uh,
problem.
yeah. Please confirm once you can screen, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay, so if you see inside my Microsoft as actually with the same account, I have logged in multiple times from my Chrome browser. So it is again asking me all this setup. So it is getting stuck somewhere, right? So for the time being, I have logged in from my Chrome browser because these credentials were already there. Okay, I was not able to find the credentials. So these were stored here in the Chrome. So I have logged in. So as soon as you will save your external data source, it will take you to log in to your Microsoft account, admin account, which you created in the beginning, right? So if you remember from here, right? So this URL, this username and password, which you will create yourself. So using those, you have to log in for the one time, so that if you see in the beginning, this was showing as pending. There was one checkbox, uh, and once you click like, should we run the flow now or later? So if we enable that checkbox, it will take you to the Microsoft page for this site, just for one time access to be provided, and you just pass your SharePoint username and password there, and allow access, and then it will refresh and come back here. So this is the page once you are logged into your external data source using Microsoft admin credentials. Okay, so and once it is successful, it will change from pending to authenticated. It means we have authenticated our app, our new external data source using, because see, this external data source is having this site, right? So we are accessing this site from the SharePoint. How? From using this auth provider. This auth provider, if you see, let me just what happens in the background, right? So if you want to access this SharePoint URL or this site from Salesforce, you have this authentication provider. And if you see the authentication provider setup, you have client ID and client secret. What are these details? They are the details of the app you created in SharePoint, right? So it's all getting connected, and these are the authorization endpoint and token endpoint URLs. And someone was asking how to create callback URL. You don't have to create. This is your base URL of your Salesforce. Then this is very common, services auth callback, and at the end, this one is your API name of your auth provider. Okay, so this complete URL you have to pass in the app when you will be creating there for the first time. Okay, like this one. So there are two things, parameters. If you are creating an app in SharePoint, you are passing Salesforce details. If you are creating any auth provider in Salesforce, you are passing SharePoint details to connect both with each other. Okay, so this is simple. Now just validate and sync so that it connects, it goes to Salesforce, sorry, it goes to SharePoint, and it creates like within Salesforce, it creates a new external data table. This will be the table name, and for maybe depending on the data or size, so just remember to run in background and run on this sync button. So once it's ready, now it's running, and let's refresh this, and it's complete. Okay, so our connection is ready. One thing here, just for your benefit, sometimes you will see this error: you are not authorized to perform the operations, or similar type of issues once you are doing this step in Salesforce, this refresh and all. So that is mostly I have seen because of the parameters you are passing, if you see the permission to the SharePoint app. That's why I told you, whenever you are copying these sample values from my blog, from maybe from the SharePoint documentation or anywhere, always try to make sure remove this manually and type from your keyboard, because sometimes some junk character or that get copied, which the systems don't recognize, and that time while you are creating or providing access to the SharePoint app, it does not give any error, but you get failed here, either validating or when you are saving your data source. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. Now you have this object created. Okay, so if you go to now external sources and external objects, you have this uh, label, and this is the data source. So this object has been created as soon as we from that external data source, we let me take a note of it. Let's say at the end, and these are by default fields which are coming from the external system, maybe as per your need, and this is the by default page layout of the system. Okay, so that is just for sample purpose. All external data sources, external objects, and with double underscore x. Now we are, maybe you can say, 90% ready. Our sales from SharePoint side, we created everything. Sites from Salesforce side, we created our external data sources. We created our auth providers. This create and refreshed it, and now we have your external data sources and external objects ready, right? Now, if you remember in the beginning, we created a permission set with those access to that file, access to the system permission files connect, right? So if you let me see if there is files now. So if I open the tab files here, right? So you will not see anything till now. Why? Because the user have the access to those file connect features, but everything is being saved in this external object. Yeah, like all the Salesforce data being displayed through this. Now what you have to do is you created one external data source and external object, right? So these two also you have to provide access to the permission set. You have already assigned to yourself in the beginning, if you remember, but these two objects access also has to be provided. So let's go again to the permission set. Okay, so files connect permission set was the permission, and just to make sure just to make sure that files connect is already provided access. Yes, so this is already provided. Just to make sure I have been assigned to this permission set. Yeah, okay. So now we have to provide object access, and from the objects, if you remember, we noted the API name. Just go there, Control F, and search the object which got created, and provide read access, maybe, or read access to all the fields that you can select as per your need. Okay, and just save it. Now I have access to object. Let me refresh. Should I have the access now? I guess no, because external data source access is also pending, right? So I go back again and external data source access. So I guess we have not missed anything except this data source access, right? So if you go here, select the external data source which you created in your previous steps and save. Okay. So sorry, not here. If you see, as soon as I provided the access, you see something in the top, right? Are you with me? Okay. And see, here you can see SharePoint Files Connect. Okay. For the first time, whoever user gets access to, you might need to connect to your SharePoint account. From you can click on here also, or from this tab you can click on this button also, so that you just provide one-time trust access. Okay, so that is just a one-time activity for the first time. And now if you go here, uh, you go to documents and you see, right? So if I go here, sorry, okay, we are in this tab only. So if you see, this was our Salesforce app demo documents, and under the documents we were having Salesforce SP demo, right? So if you see here, the same is being visible here. Okay, and if you click here, we have some Salesforce Dev Jaipur group photo sample file, and if you go deep down here, you have that file, right? So you can now open, share, or download from here. But now let's see uh, from the now. Okay, let's wait for 2 minutes. Get any doubts, and we'll see how we can connect. Uh, Before that, let me quickly create a tab also, so that it gets added to okay, new objects tab. This is the new object which we created. Okay, sorry. Select any computer. This is optional, and in case you want to show all those files as a tab also in your system, Salesforce. Okay. Now just go refresh your Salesforce and search for the same tab from this, right? You go here and click on all files. So this is a little time consuming step for the first time it is loading, because what it does, it goes to the file folder. Like this is your site, right? So under documents, how many folders you have, how many files you have, because this is just a sample, we just created one folder and one file. So but in actual your projects, if you are creating a new tab in Salesforce, so that might take a lot of time, and you just click on refresh just to get the latest data, so that all of your folders, either it is a folder or a file, right? So icons, everything gets loaded here. Okay, so let's go to opportunities.
So Sombir, this is dual, two-way sync, right? From here to there, there to here also.
No.
Just a sync from SharePoint to Salesforce.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and if we want to have something on the record level, say, say we have an opportunity and we want to bring a particular file to here, then we'll have to write an external trigger or something to attach
Yeah,
those, right?
yeah. So for this, this is first of all, we told in the beginning,
Hmm.
this is a point and click solution. First
Correct.
thing,
Correct.
using File Connect. This is also out of the box feature, free of cost from Salesforce. Of course, you will need license and accounts on SharePoint, but as a intermediate solution perspective, File Connect is free available. Okay,
Okay.
and you have a ability to connect to multiple systems, as we saw: Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, Microsoft, right? And here at the end, you are accessing SharePoint files within Salesforce. Depending on you just want the reference or you just want to have a full copy, that you have to setting in the files connect. In the beginning we saw, right, copy and reference, right? So if you want, let's say, as soon as I create a opportunity and create some, let's say, opportunity file as a PDF or any doc file, and that should automatically go to SharePoint and vice versa, and something else, that will require a different approach. Okay. So yeah, where will we? Any more questions? Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible, right? Okay, just to save time, uh, you can just drag and drop the files option also in the lightning. So uh, you go to any objects, let's say opportunities or accounts or contacts, any place. You, if this option is not available, you just go to the opportunities object, and from there, uh, from the app builder, just enable this files. You try to upload from here, you can upload, but that is just a plain. Yeah, if you click try to upload from here, you will see here also SharePoint option. Okay, second option I showed you, you can create your own tab and you can just verify and see all files, and you can just refresh, not taking the latest values from here. It might take a lot of time depending on the amount of data that is present. Third option comes is Salesforce Classic, right? So yeah, I guess I forgot to tell you, this works for both Classic and Sales Lightning. Okay, so we will quickly have a overview on let's say, let me go to sales on Classic also, how to add the file, and then we will try to wrap and take any questions. Okay, you go to any object, let's say opportunities, you go to files, click on select a file from Salesforce. Now you have the same uh, these are the options available out of the box. After your integration is ready, you will see this connected source, and you can see your documents and files from Classic also, right? Salesforce demo, and let's say you just click on this attach. Say, say please check this file. Some team members you want to add and share. So these are the three things from share Lightning, Classic, and maybe you can create your own tab. So if you see, you just have the reference. If you see, if you want to see this file, it will take you to the SharePoint external site, because you just selected in the beginning reference. Okay. And yeah, I guess we are done. And just to make sure, let's say we are done. If you want to remove access, it is simple. You just go to again your permission sets, right? And remove the access to those uh, external data source. And as soon as you remove the access from your data source and refresh your access, sorry, your access will be gone. Uh, this is your files connect. Just to quickly make sure, like if someone wants to remove access, there is no need to delete any connections, anything. Just remove the access of this external data source. And after that, if you will refresh, I'm in this, right? Let's say I go to files, that connection is gone. Okay, so that is very simple to remove access or grant access. So if you want to, like this is all done, you have tested your ones, and now you can start assigning the permissions. The same, just very simple step. Just go to permission set, assign to respective users, and those users will start getting access to SharePoint directly. For the first time, as you saw in the top, they will see the connect option. So they have to connect with their credentials. Everyone needs their license to log into say SharePoint, right? And then you are good to go. And yes, there is one thing, the blog URL. Okay, so instead of blog URL, let me give you a base URL. This one. Okay, so please go on this site. Also, I'll ask Rahul or Debashish to send this URL in the like mail also, which you will get after this, maybe today or tomorrow. So
Yes.
yeah, so you can go to this page. uh, I have started writing useful contents. Okay, so this is the first is the blog, just to help you. Just go through all the steps. You will see first we made our Microsoft account ready. All URLs, like where you have to go, just go here, right? And this I have put in bold just for your reference. This might change for your org, right? You might have something ABC 123, right? How to create a new site, all site steps are given. Then how to go to file setup, reference or value. The differences I have mentioned. You have to give access to the new permission with this permission set. You go to the Auth Provider. If you don't know what is Auth Provider, how to do, there is a help article also given from the Salesforce. Okay, you will see something like this, and after you save your values, you will see values. These two authorization endpoint, token endpoints I have mentioned here. Just change your company name. Okay, where company name is this in our case. Now you go to your SharePoint app. We are creating your app, so make sure your site URL is ready. At the end, append this one to create a new site, and you will create generate all these things. This is the site. Copy these all details with you, and remember the redirect URL from the uh, Salesforce, from the auth providers. You have to copy. Okay. So now configuring SharePoint. So these are the scopes I told you, and as guided, if you copy here in the notepad directly, you notice, right? If you see this one and this one is different. So if you copy this directly and say I shown you one error, is possibly you might come to such type of errors when you create new data source and save it for connection, because there was some special character got introduced while providing access to the site. Okay, so keep this as a special care. And you are here, right? So then you provided the access to the file, created a new external data source, paste your site URL and the new auth provider you created. Just validate and sync. Once it is completed, you will have to provide these two access to your new custom object, external object, and external data source. As soon as you provide external source and objects both access, one access you already provided in the beginning, then you have to assign those users with this permission set, and they will start seeing that SharePoint button. So for the first time, you might have to log in to the SharePoint, and then you are ready. So I have given screenshots also, like from the Lightning, you can go to files. Here you will see all the files, right? From the opportunity, you can go here in the Classic, and this is the sample files which we have attached. I have also given the same error you might get, so I request you to take care of the double quotes. And there are few help articles mentioned. You can connect me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and yeah, one more thing. Please try to uh, follow if you want to. I have started recently to write content, so if you want to learn or understand, so because I have logged in, if you launch this from maybe some different, you will see the connection to the button to, I guess, follow or something. So you might follow, and yeah, one more good thing. I have one more story ready for you. I thought to publish. So maybe we can try. I have written one more story. This is not published yet. So I thought to publish during the session. So if you want to learn you might be aware of what is Slack, right? Slack is the product which was acquired recently by Salesforce. Uh, that is the most like useful collaboration tool available, and if you have some requirement in your Salesforce for Slack and Salesforce integration, this is a very simple point step-by-step solution which I have written. So you can go through this, okay? And first try to go through the SharePoint, and I'll try publishing more contents. So let's publish this, and okay. So I guess this story should be live now. So if you see, we have one more story here. So for this demo which we have recently done, this is the story. And if you want to learn on Slack also, Slack and Salesforce integration, you can go through this. Okay, I am working on Google Drive integration also, that I'll try to post very soon. Okay, I guess we are done. If there is any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there are a couple of. One is if you want to save uploaded files automatically to a Google Drive or SharePoint and access later from a corresponding account, how can we achieve this?
Say again, please. You are
It
uploading
says
from Salesforce.
if we want to save uploaded files automatically to Google Drive and SharePoint folders and access them later using some corresponding account, how can we achieve this? Not mentioned if it is from Salesforce.
Uh, First of all, if the question is from Salesforce, you are uploading this demo is out of scope. If let's
Yeah.
say you have this site, where are files? Okay, you have this site, right? You have documents. If you are adding 5 folders, 5 more files here, you don't need to do anything. They will keep automatically refreshed in Salesforce.
So yeah, he's mentioning these files are uploaded from Salesforce only.
No, that is, I told you, that is not in the
Yeah,
scope
this
of
is
Salesforce.
different. Yeah.
So if you, let's say in your SharePoint, you have some X number of folders and files, and let's say under documents, you added one more folder now, right? Let's say this is the fresh one. Or so that will come quickly. Might be you might need to refresh in your tab or wherever you are accessing it, right? but that will come automatically. For that, you don't need to do anything. That will come automatically. Yeah.
Okay, so how to enforce the SharePoint access permission while seeing the files in Salesforce for different profiles as a Salesforce user?
You are asking how to provide access to this SharePoint?
Yeah, no, they're asking about how to enforce the SharePoint access permission, like the files that are coming from say SharePoint to Salesforce, how
Uh,
to apply permission so that only limited people can only see it.
you have permission sets, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
the one the permissions that you created.
Yeah. If you don't want to give access to anyone, don't give that
Hmm.
permission set. So for permission
Then I,
sets, we have three things. If you
hmm,
remember, one is that first of all, the files connect permission, and once
hmm,
your external data source and external object is ready, so if you don't give access to the external data source, they will not be able to see. So let's say you assigned by mistake, just remove that access of specific data source, external data source. You might have, let's say, Google Drive. So remove that Google Drive data source. If you are removing SharePoint access, just remove the SharePoint external data source access from that profile or their permission sets for those users, and they will like they will not be having any access now.
got it. Mostly, apart from this, all the questions that are there, you already answered them. The
Okay.
question, okay, no, the question is in different user have different permission in SharePoint. How to enforce these permission? Well, saying so different users are having different permission at SharePoint level. So will those permit like how to enforce those permission while seeing the files in Salesforce?
Okay, so if you see at the higher level, let's say the main folder of, or what we say the root folder of documents, right? So
Mhm.
those are created by maybe in the beginning, if you see by the administrators of that company or that org, right? So later, if you create your own project specific or those are always root to your child and to your site, right? So this there are two things which when we are providing access to from the Salesforce app, either you want to access specific site, all the sites, or only the parent site and not its subfolders. There were three parameters. Or do you want read, edit, full control? So from there you can control. So if any access you want to control from, let's say, SharePoint perspective, you go to the app configuration in SharePoint. If you want to control any access from Salesforce, you go to permission sets or profiles.
Okay. These records are in Salesforce are being stored under external objects or contain documents
External
files.
documents. External documents.
Okay.
Yeah. So that depend, like if that's the reference only, we are creating reference, right? So
Hmm.
if your second option is copy, so what it does, it creates a copy and saves in your Salesforce file system also. But that
Okay.
what we'll say removes the scope of sharing files in some external system, right? So SharePoint is made for storing or maintaining your documents management, right? So if you are having a copy of all files one by one in Salesforce, one day your Salesforce will be become bulky, right? So it's
Yeah.
recommended to use the reference option. Keep the files in say, SharePoint only, and we just have the reference. But for few cases, maybe you will need, let's say, few projects might need, they are sharing those files or those things in external systems or so. The two choices are there. Either you use the copy or someone from Salesforce who has access, internal user, right? They can download in their local and then they can manually share as a file in their chatter groups or somewhere.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we are done with the questions. One last thing which I would like to talk about is so everyone here, we have two upcoming sessions. One is on Apex, the best practices given by Om Prakash on 27th, and then we have an adopting DevOps strategy to for your Salesforce org by Carlos on September 10th. So make sure and you join our session. Okay, so it would be these sessions are crafted only for the community. Okay, so we would register for those sessions and join our session. And we would like to thank Sombir for amazing demo, step by step. He took all the efforts of setting up of accounts till showing the files. So thank you, Sombir, for such a detailed explanation. It was great session.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and please go through my that Medium portal. Try to follow, and I'll keep on posting more contents, and I'll try to keep them as simple as possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we will tune for the recording, and we will surely share this blog as well on the mail, so that everyone has those blogs on their mail as well, and they don't
Okay.
lose out the details.
Sure. Sure.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, Sombir. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you for joining on the weekend, Sunday. Enjoy your day.